Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Zatima, Season 2, Episode 3, Close Quarters, now streaming over on BET+. So we open up the episode and it's the following morning, and Angela, she calls Fatima to see where she is, and Fatima says she's waiting on Zach. He's moving a little slow this morning. Angela, for whatever odd reason, is in the garage at work waiting on Paul to get there with a tire. Like, girl, that's not even your car, so why are you worried about it? I don't get it. So Fatima was like, Zach will be bringing her, and Angela tells her, look, you need to get here because you need to be weighing your options. Fatima was like, girl, I am a whole fiance. Like, girl, stop. So Angela then asked, was Zach going to be bringing Fatima? And she said yes. And Fatima tells her, look, he's had a rough night. I'll tell you all about it. Angela says, I know you will, which suggests to me that Fatima talks too goddamn much. The conversation that Fatima had with Zach in the car should remain between the two of them, I feel. Zach was very vulnerable. He was transparent. He opened up to his future wife of the things that happened to him back in his past with his mom. That is none of Angela's business whatsoever. So there's no need to tell her anything. Whether he had a long night or short night, that's not her business. So Zach, he finally comes downstairs, and Fatima, she checks on him, makes sure he's okay. She lets him know that she's got him, tells him how much she loves him, and that she's going to tell him how much she loves him as much as she has to, so that he doesn't have to doubt it. Although Zach still was looking a little sad, he did let her know that he also loved her and that he knows that basically she's there for him. And I thought that was a great moment, a great scene, very encouraging. So the two of them get outside, and instantly you see a change in their personalities. Fatima went from being so loving and caring to Zach on the inside to this raging bull when she sees Deja. And Zach, he's just half embarrassed of how Fatima is acting, but also over there checking Deja out low key. Like, you was just sad and depressed a few minutes ago, but now you done perked up a bit. But Deja, she done went and put this neck brace around her neck, trying to get groceries out of her trunk, and having the audacity to ask Zach in front of Fatima, can he come help her? Fatima was like, I'll help you. She said, I don't want your help. So they doing their usual banter. I guess this is going to be a thing every time they leave their house. This is the only way we're going to encounter Deja. Like, mainly seeing Deja. She's always outside. Basically, that's what it's looking like. So Fatima says, I'll help you. So she goes and grabs the groceries and slams them upside the building and busts the bottle of wine all down the front of the door or the wall or whatever. Zach, he's over there acting like he's so embarrassed and telling Fatima, get in the car, child, whatever. So Fatima makes him open her door. She gets in the car, and Zach, for whatever reason, and I don't understand, what is it about Deja that he act like he can't get his ass in the car and go? He has to do this little back and forth thing, like, which way do I go? Which way do I go? Like, what side I want to be on? Like, he want to help Deja, but he know he got to go. He did the exact same thing when Fatima had Deja hemmed all up in the locker room at the gym when he had ran in there and tried to save Deja then. It was the same thing. Fatima yelling, let's go, Zach, bring your butt on. And he acting like, oh, I gotta help her. Like, what is that about? So Zach and Fatima, they pull up to her job, and Zach sees Paul and instantly wants to know who he is and where his shirt is. Fatima tells him that that's the construction guy that she told him about that was fixing a tire. So, he's already ready to act the fool. So he gets out the car. Oh, I got something for him. And Paul trying to say hello and, give him dap. Zach wanted no parts of that, and Paul told him, look, I was just trying to help this beautiful young lady out. And of course, Zach is like, chill with the compliments. This is my fiance. Paul had to let him know, look, I don't mean no harm. I'm just trying to help. You can chill on all the hostility. Zach, I'm not hostile. I may be hot, but I'm not hostile. Just acting all childish or whatever. So Fatima ended up asking him how much does she owe him to fix the tire, and Paul told her don't worry about it. Zach was over there like, oh no, you're not gonna be just walking around all willy-nilly, not charging or whatever, how much. So Fatima went to fumbling around in her purse trying to get the money out, and I'm like, well, why is Fatima even pulling any money out? So I guess she didn't move fast enough, and Zach like, oh, well, as a matter of fact, we gonna pay you. You should already had the money out in the first place since you felt like that, Mr. All of That. And he pulls out, he fumbles around inside his wallet and finds $7 and throws the money at Paul. And me and Fatima like, $7? So he was like, oh, you can do buy you some shirts or something with them $7. And then went to talking about, oh, I know I used to work in construction. I used to buy those little flannel shirts too when I was small time, like trying to make it seem like I'm all that now. Like, Zach, you need to humble yourself a little bit, baby. Humble yourself a little bit, because that money could be gone in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye. And you can be right back to buying them flannel shirts for $7. So just cut the crap and stop being immature. So after Angela and Paul walk off, Fatima asks Zach, like, what was that? Like, why are you acting like that? You normally don't do that. Zach calls her out and tells her that's no different than how you act with Deja on a daily. I'm like, nah, he got a point with that, because, you do be acting a donkey. But I feel like with Deja is completely disrespectful on purpose, blatant with it. Like, that's like, daily. She done got beat up and everything, and she still is very disrespectful. But anyway, Zach was like, and he probably the one that flattened your tire. And I'm like, you know what, Zach? I said the same thing last week, because as cute as Paul may be, I don't trust Paul. I really don't. So I'm in agreement with that. So she was like, what is wrong with you? We were just fine at the house. What's the problem? Zach said, I'm not mad. I'm good. I'm straight. Look at my face, even though, you could tell. But my thing is, Fatima, he woke up in a mood. Like, when you go through all of that emotional stuff the night before like that, he is still in a mood. And then he sees this little tall, fine, light-skinned guy with light eyes complimenting his woman and helping his woman out. You already know what time it is. So, of course, he's in a little funk. But, I mean, that doesn't give him a right to be acting totally immature and childish and rude like that. Zach gonna have to grow up. So Zach says he has to go, so he starts to walk off, and Fatima stands there like, oh, so I don't get a kiss? That what we doing? And he comes back and gives her this little endearing forehead kiss, and she wasn't really with it. So he gets in the car to get ready to leave, and she says, oh, so you gonna leave the $7 down there? He said, it's $7. You want it? And she said, don't try me. That's not enough. And she walked off, and he sat in the car like he waited for her to leave and gonna get out the car like, shit, I'm finna go get my $7. Like, this is my $7. I'm like, I wouldn't have left no $7 there either. I wouldn't care how much money I had. I'm going to get that. So when Fatima gets off her floor to go to work, Angela's waiting for her outside the elevator. So she's ranting and raving about Zach and his behavior, talking about he's so jealous, what was wrong with him. Fatima's, she's making excuses for Zach, like, I've never seen him act like that. That's not him. He's been in a foul mood ever since he saw his mom. Angela, she's like, child, whatever, talking about, oh, I told you need to keep your options open. I said, girl, shut your ass up. So them two, they're going back and forth with that. Bryce, he gets off the elevator, basically hemming up Angela. Fatima tells her, you might want to go handle that. So Bryce was like, you've been avoiding me. You want to tell me what's going on? She said, I just need some space. And says that they've been moving too fast. So Bryce, he busts out laughing in her face. And she says, look, I got to go to work. Bryce tells her, you don't have to go to work for a whole nother hour. And I'm like, what? So she was like, maybe they want me there early. And she said, look, I gotta go. Can we do this later on? So he said, well, call me later. And if you don't call me, I'm coming to your house. Period, point blank. In her face, let her know I'm coming to your house. So basically, we see Bryce's character kind of changing a little bit from that nicey nice guy. He's becoming a little more outspoken and a little more aggressive in a way. But, Angela didn't want no part. She's trying to hurry up and get on the elevator and get away from him instead of her having all the smoke for Bryce and telling Bryce what needs to be told. She want to tell Fatima what she need to be doing with her man. Girl, bye. So we go over there to Zach's office, and Tony and Nate, they're sitting in there waiting on him. Instantly, he's annoyed, like, what are you guys doing here? They tell him they came to check on him to make sure he's okay. He says, I'm fine. You guys keep asking me that. Don't I look okay? And they were like, you look good. You're looking like money, but what about your heart? Nate tells him, we know that you saw your mom, so I guess they know how he gets when he gets, triggered by all of that. And Zach was like, well, how do you know that? Nate tells him that Jeremiah told him. So we see that Nate is really close to Jeremiah, which he knows is a trigger for Zach. And I remember last season, I believe Nate was the one that gave Jeremiah Zach's address to where he lived for him to show up when he did. So they're going on and on about that, and in walks Bryce, and he's dapping the boys up because he plays basketball with them, so he's happy to see them. And Zach, he's blocking it, like not really allowing them to talk to Bryce. And he hasn't told him about the situation that happened, so he's trying to get rid of Bryce, telling him, remember that project, you were supposed to be going to work on. So he basically got rid of Bryce. And then the guys are like, what's up with that? Like, why you acting like that? What's wrong with you? And Nate, of course, is like, what did Fatima do? Like, if you already know he was in a bad mood from his mom, why you even bringing Fatima up in this situation? So then they go back and forth with all of that. Zach says he's going to his office. So Tony and Nate start talking, and Tony sends Nate to the car so he can go talk to Zach. And Nate feel a certain kind of way, like, we all boys, I should be talking to him too. And Tony had to tell him, like, why would you want to talk to him? And you the one that caused all the misery. You the one hate his woman. So you go to the car and I'll be out there. So Tony, he goes in there to talk to Zach. Zach still don't want to be bothered. He's like, look, why are you here? Like, leave. And he was like, let me just say this. So Tony, he's overly supportive and letting him know, I'm here for you, bro. I'm here for you. I love you. This and that and the other. And keeps talking about, I know what your mama and your brother did to you. I know all the things they did. And Zach is like, basically, he says he feels like he owes his mom, like that's still his mother. So he feels some kind of way about it, even though they trigger him, they've treated him bad or whatever. He still feels like that's something he needs to be trying to do, is take care of them. And Tony basically let him know, like, you don't owe anybody anything. And, just reassured him, I'm here for you if you need me, And Zach was like, that's what's up. So we go over there to Fatima's office, and she's trying to work, and she's not able to concentrate because there's a bunch of noise going on from Paul and his crew with the construction. So she gets a phone call. I guess we're to assume that it's Andy calling, saying that she's on a conference call and that they can't hear. Can Fatima go down and talk to them? This is a big, huge law firm from what we were thinking all this time, but Fatima has to be the one to go down and talk to a whole construction crew. Okay then. So she goes down there, talks to Paul, tells him, basically her boss is on a conference call. Can they tone the noise down a little bit? Paul says he'll go talk to the boss in a little bit, and he didn't know that it was a female, so Fatima corrected him like she, and I'm surprised that he knows who Angela and Fatima is, but he doesn't know who Andy is, who walks around in bright yellow pantsuits, but he don't know who Andy is. So he says, well, let me go back up with you. I'll talk to the boss now. Why would you go back up right now to talk to the boss when I just told you they on a conference call? So they're not going to be able to talk to you. But anyway, they go and get on the elevator, and all of a sudden the elevator gets stuck. So he calls Dan, one of his crew members, and talks to him about the elevator being stuck. And he says some knucklehead did something, he'll get right on it. So him and Fatima, they get to talking. Paul, he gets a little claustrophobic, and we learn that he was in the military, and he says that he gets a little weirded out by small crowded spaces. Fatima tells him that her dad was in the army, but he's now retired. So the two of them, they have that in common, and we learn that he owns the construction company and that he inherited through his dad. Tells Fatima that it gets a little rough sometimes. It's good when it's good, but it's bad when it's bad. And he just might need those $7 that Zach threw in his face. So, of course, Fatima goes to defending Zach's behavior. She apologizes. She tells Paul that Zach is really not like that. He's just been really stressed out lately. Paul says he's very disrespectful. Of course, Fatima is going to defend her man. And Paul says that, well, if your dad was military, then you should be able to recognize that his behavior is indeed disrespect. And, Fatima is like, whatever. So she goes to looking for her cell phone and can't find it. So she asks that he get back on the line with Dan to try to find out how much longer they're going to be in this elevator. So we go over there to Zach's office, and now Bryce is standing in his doorway. Zach, he's still annoyed, still doesn't want to be bothered. He's like, what is it you want? What is it? Bryce is like, I just want to ask you, did you tell Fatima what happened? He was like, and did? He was like, oh, no wonder why Angela has been acting funny. So he eases on in there and sits down, and Zach was like, why are you sitting down? Like, he just eased in there like we're back friends, and we're not. So Bryce wants to know specifically, what did Zach tell Fatima? And he said, I told her what happened, that you tried to kiss me. Bryce says that it was so much more to the story than just that. And I'm like, well, enlighten us, Bryce, because we don't know what was going on. Tell us, the audience, please. So he was like, well, I just wish I had got a chance to tell Angela myself. So Zach tells him, well, go tell her. You still can. He stands up yelling, and we've never seen this side of Bryce before, so I'm like intrigued. He stands up, he's like, I can't because now it's tainted because you told her. Zach was like, I just told my truth. So Bryce was like, well, is this how it's going to be now? This how you are now? You used to be a great guy. Now you've become this big asshole. It was just a kiss. You act like I murdered your mom or something. Baby, why did he say that? Because Zach came from behind that desk with this look in his eyes ready to kill, and I was scared. Bryce went back into that little quiet shell, turtle shell of his, and stumbling and fumbling all over his words and trying to apologize. And Zach hemmed him up against the wall like, what did you say about my mother? Like, don't you ever say that again. I will break your effing face. Don't you ever say anything about my mom again. And Zach left. I'm like, child, you gonna learn today. So we go back to the elevator where Paul and Fatima are still stuck, and they're in there making small talk. Fatima ends up asking him, was he dating, married, or straight? He checks all the boxes like no, no, and yes. So she says, well, what do you think about my friend, Angela, from the parking garage earlier? It sounded to me like Paul said, who, Angie? And he said, she's nice and all, but Fatima was like, oh, not your type, right? He says, well, my last two exes, they look like they can be related. So I kind of have a certain type. So Fatima was like, well, what do they look like? And of course, he said they look like her. He tells her that she's stunning and that the bad guy, talking about Zach, is lucky. So Paul asks Fatima, does Zach really know how lucky he is? He says that he knows Zach's type. He's seen it. He says all the misplaced anger, does not appreciate anything, and just angry at the world, Fatima, she defends Zach like he's not like that. She keeps telling him that. So he says, well, how long have the two of you been together? Fatima just says out her mouth, just like, like it's nothing. Oh, we've been together a year. I said, say what? I said, now, Fatima, now, are you lying to Paul because you feel embarrassed because you and Zach haven't been together that long? Or did you just not just blurt something out, because you know the audience. We wait for you guys to say dates, times, and all months. We wait for that. I look for that because it's very important. A timeline is extremely important for us. So I'm going to assume, and we all know what that means, that you just said a year so that you wouldn't feel embarrassed by telling Paul maybe 3 or 4 months. So Paul wants to know, is she happy in a relationship? She's smiling, glowing. She says, yes, I am. And he says, well, if I ever get the chance, I will do whatever I could to make you happy. And I'm like, red flag, red flag, red flag. Look, Paul, you don't know this lady. You claim, well, you just met her yesterday. And now all of a sudden you want to do whatever you can to make her happy. You don't even know her. Like, what is this about? So she said, well, you're not going to get that chance. She shut it down. And if you want to talk to my girl, Angela, I can hook that up. He said, I don't want to talk to nobody but you. I said, oh no, oh no. Paul is a fatal attraction waiting to happen. So Paul says, well, can we at least be friends? And Fatima shut it down again, like, no, you don't want to be my friend. So no, we're not going to be doing all that. So Paul said, well, at least can I give you this number? It's the guy that kind of helped me out. He has this retreat for guys. And, his name is Dr. Jackson Reed. So I just found that to be kind of random for Paul to suggest a therapist for Zach just out of the blue, like as if he was in the conversation in the car or something, because Fatima never said Zach had a problem. She just said he was having a bad day. He just was stressed out. So why would you just randomly offer a therapist for somebody? And I do feel that Paul knows Zach's type because that's who he was. That's who he used to be. That's probably how this therapist probably helped him overcome all of that. But Fatima was like, I don't think it's a good idea. He says, well, he doesn't have to know that it came from me. So Paul insisted on giving the information for the therapist. He told her to look the information up just so that she can have it on deck when she did need it. Said that the guy's name, again, was Jackson Reed. He gives good workshops called The Healthy Black Man, which sounds really good. So she was like, okay, no problem. All of a sudden, the elevator, it starts back up. Fatima, she loses her balance and she falls over into his arms. So now the elevator doors open and Zach is standing there like, oh my God, what is going on? He is looking crazy. Fatima and Paul, they're in disbelief. They're shocked. I'm shocked. I'm like, oh my God, it is getting ready to go down up in this piece. And the episode ends there. Y'all already know Zach getting ready to act a whole donkey up in this elevator. Drop down below in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. And as usual, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.